Welcome back to another lesson with me, Mr. B. For the next 2 lessons, we're going to revisit some previously made videos on the 4 I's of oppression, moving on to interpersonal and internalized oppression. So the goal for this lesson is to understand how oppression can affect individuals interpersonally, internally, and towards others. Interpersonal oppression: when an individual actively oppresses another individual from person to person, or this can be from group to group. You could think of this as a bully to their victim, or to 2 teams, one thinking that they're better than the other. And in this case, these 2 teams could be our character back here, Jet, and the freedom fighters that are flipping over the Fire Nation troops because they're trying to stop the nearby colonization of these Earth Kingdom villages. So let's look at the root words of this. So inter, meaning between, and personal, signifying 2 people. So in between 2 people, right? That's how we get this person to person, group to group, bully to their victim. The last I is for internalized oppression. Internalized oppression is when an individual begins to believe what their oppressor says about them. So this can go from a group to the individual, and most importantly, the self, when the individual themselves accepts whatever is being said about them as truth. Let's tie this to the citizens of the Lower Ring in Ba Sing Se, which was that capital city with the 3 segregated sections that we were talking about in the last lesson. If we look at the characters in the background, we see that the older man, Iroh, is about to get mugged by the citizen of the Lower Ring. Because citizens of the Lower Ring, they're constantly told that they will amount to nothing. And so this man is attempting to mug one of our characters, Iroh, because he believes that all he could be was a thief or a thug, as he was told he would be nothing more. So this is that internalized oppression. A simple way to think of this is when someone tells another person, you're stupid, and the person who's being told they're stupid believes and accepts that as truth. So what happens when someone takes in all this oppression and internalizes it? Where does it go? What is the outcome of all this oppression on a particular group of people, or maybe an individual? In Avatar: The Last Airbender, as we can see here, one of the main characters, which is this girl right here, her name is Katara. One of the main plot points of her character is that her mother was killed when she was a child by the Fire Nation soldiers, as we can see over in panel number 1 and 2, when the soldier says, "I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today." In these first 2 panels, we can see that Katara's mother was trying to protect her daughter from being found as the last person who can bend water, which is shown how she bends water in panels 5 and 6, the ability to control water around them, as that is a threat to fire naturally. The results of her mother's murder is that in this episode, Katara searches for her mother's killer many years later to get revenge and ultimately oppress him back. So what is this called? This idea is known as sub-oppression. The act of sub-oppression is when people who have been oppressed internalize the injustice to the point where they also become oppressors. So again, with this example, this is what happens, right? Katara has been holding this pain and injustice of her mother's death, and over time, she becomes consumed by this rage, allowing it to drive her to commit actions towards her oppressor or murderer of her mom. This is also a good example of sub-oppression when we talked about Jet and the freedom fighters. If we look at the dialogue over in panel number 1, we see that Jet is asking another character, Sokka, "You fool, we could have freed this valley." And Sokka asks, who would be free? Everyone would be dead. And Jet in panel 3 thinks that Sokka is being a traitor, but this is key. When Sokka points out, no, Jet, you became the traitor when you stopped protecting innocent people. And regardless of who was in that village, whether they were Fire Nation people who moved in or the Earth Kingdom people that Jet was trying to save, it's clear that Jet didn't care anymore because he just wanted to take the land back and defeat the Fire Nation soldiers. So how sub-oppression comes about, we just looked at 2 different examples. We have one individual who takes that pain and that rage and places to dump those feelings onto themselves and then take it out on another person. The other way is we have someone who takes that pain and rage and tries to dump it on another group of people. And oftentimes, this can happen within the same group of people. Because with Jet, the people who are in the village he's trying to destroy are a combination of his own people and people from the Fire Nation. He doesn't care about who's inside. He cares that it's Fire Nation and we need to destroy it in order to get revenge. So within the forms of oppression, there can be different roles. There's the oppressor, there's the sub-oppressor, and then lastly, there's the oppressed. There's someone doing harm, someone who deals with it, but takes out that pain on others, and then the person or group being harmed. It's a vicious cycle, and Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed examines the various things that contribute to this act of oppression. I hope that gave a clear definition on interpersonal, internalized, and sub-oppression. They can affect the dynamic of relationships on a smaller scale and cause harm within marginalized groups. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.